You know what time it is?
All right, everybody. Welcome to Bad Wrench Automotive. This is our live podcast. And today we are doing a tune-up that goes deeper. I'll explain that in just a second. I'm going to get a few things set up for you guys, and then we will get into this. Okay. It's good to have you here on this Sunday. Jay, good to have you in the chat. So I will start off with the announcements like I always do, guys. Thank you guys for all the support. We are growing. We're getting closer to wanting to build that merch store to bring you guys hats and shirts. We are looking at different colors and things like that. So please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you get notified when we go live, which is every Sunday at 1 p.m. Central. Also consider joining the members only area. We are looking to expand that members only area. I'm even looking at doing some very special classroom assignments or assessment stuff in the members only, meaning that this would only be available in the members. So if you guys wanted that kind of instructional courses, we could do that in the members only area. Something that I am looking at for the future along with the merch store. So now that we've got announcements out of the way, guys, thank you for all the support lately. We are growing so much. One last issue or topic. Mods, I will read all chats from the mods down below. If you are not a mod and you're just checking out the stream, make sure you guys super chat in your questions. Any dollar amount I read on screen, any above $10, you'll get the sound effect and a shout out. And that is also the sound effect for our transitions. So today will be a little bit heavier of a day. We're going to tackle a lot of different topics because I do need to get this car done. I can't leave this sit in my garage for the next 6 months. If it would be a car that I bought and I was doing for the channel, I would break down each one of these topics and really go into depth on them. But because it's a customer, we're going to focus on getting the customer's car done. So today is going to be a little bit heavier hitting. I do have some news at the end. Guys, we always do news. I recap what happened throughout the week, and I usually hit on a topic. This week, I'm going to hit really hard on the EV topic at the end, guys. Massively hard. I'm going to push back because there was an article that was pulled from the news cycle because they were claiming that battery replacement costs were a lot lower than what we initially thought, which was a lie.
Stop the cap.
And we're not going to let them slide on that. We can't. So we're going to call them out in the news section. That will be coming up. Mods, yes, all mods say hi, so I know you guys are in here. And mods, you can also highlight a question if it's something that's related to what we're doing today. I will read that and then let the person know that sent that in. But usually it's going to be done through Super Chat if you are not a mod or a member of the channel. We're doing this because we really do need to grow this channel and help build the community. That's why we do these as a live stream. I could do these as a pre-record, guys, and I could edit out a bunch of things that slowed me down or where I had mistakes, but it's not real. It's really fake when you see that, because what happens is you don't see the struggles. You don't see the things that they have to go through in order to make sure that the project gets finished. You know, hey, I missed that bolt and now I got to take everything back apart again. You guys will see that here. I'm not going to hide any of that. But you won't see that on a lot of the pre-records because they're just not going to drag out the video to show you the mistake. I'll show you the mistake because I'm not afraid to show it to you. And honestly, if I make the mistake, chances are somebody else is going to make the mistake too. So when I help you guys through that, that really does kind of show you guys that this is real life. This is a real situation. This isn't some studio stage that I have going here and everything works out perfect all the time. It's live. Things happen live. So, in the process of drinking this up, guys, you're going to see me shift away from this stuff. I've been overdoing the caffeine lately. Been getting some pretty nasty headaches, so I've got I think 5 more bottles to chew through, and then I'll be moving on from that stuff, and I'll just drink homemade tea instead. A lot less caffeine. They pump a lot of synthetic caffeine in this, just so you guys know. So we'll get that out of the way. All right, guys, let's transition into the topic right away. We've got a bunch of stuff going on today. I'll do a quick rundown before we transition over. So we have an alternator. We have a belt tensioner. We have a throttle body. We have a battery. We have a valve cover. We have spark plugs. We have coils. These are all things we need to do to this car for this tune-up. This is a big job. This isn't something that most people would tackle in a weekend unless they were shutting down their entire weekend to do this project. You guys are seeing me do this over the course of 2, maybe 3 weekends where I'm tearing this all down and I'm starting to put stuff back together. Could I blitz through this car in a day, day and a half? I could, but it's going to be a long day. So that being said, let's transition over into it right now. All right, so here's our Honda. This is what we've been working on, guys. And what I want to highlight first is I'm going to bring the camera around and I'm going to show you where we were and where we left off from last week, just so you guys know kind of where we're at. All right, so last week we pulled our alternator and our belt tensioner out. We took our belt tensioner out. We put all of our bolts back in our new tensioner, and you guys will see that here in a little bit. We moved the power steering pump out of the way to give us access to this alternator. We had to, because this alternator is squeaking and making noise. The bearing in it is going bad. I don't want to risk it. This car is going to get driven a lot. And because of the amount of miles and where this car has to go, it's not worth risking it on an alternator that squeaks, even if the alternator looks new. Bad bearings can seize, blow out the belt, wrap around power steering pumps and water pumps. Not something to play around with. We're also going to go for this throttle body. We're going to take all of our connectors off. We're going to take our hoses off. And we do have coolant lines that we are going to have to contend with. We will have to pull those coolant lines and the bolts for the throttle body. What I'd like to do is take all the connectors, pull all the bolts, take this hose, because this is a vent hose. This is for vacuum. Then I'm going to lift it up and I'm going to take those hoses off. My goal is to lift those hoses up and move them up here so that they're higher than the radiator, meaning we'll get a little bit of a drip, but not bad. We will have a battery to put back in at some point. We have to clean those terminals. I've already taken the... So I will have to clean this up really well. Once I get that cleaned up, we'll be good. I did take that plastic apart up there in order to do that. And I will have to take this valve cover off. The valve cover is also going to get into doing spark plugs and coils. We've already pulled the coils. I've put 3 new spark plugs in it. And we do have one hole that has oil in it. And I'm going to explain to you guys when we get there what is going on with that. So now that I got you set up over there, check a few things. You guys are checking out a replay. Make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe, because it really does help the channel. It helps us grow. And we really want to grow this year, guys. We need your help to do it. Just checking out some stuff, guys. I'm looking at some of my analytics guys, just trying to pay attention to the analytics because it really does help me kind of do a better show for you guys. So just checking that out quick. Everything's set up. Awesome. So we will get into today's topic, start taking things out. I'm going to go for this alternator first because it's the easiest to do. And we're able to do this because we already took the belt tensioner out, meaning we have more access to do this. And what I would like to do, it's all pulled out, and I'm going to show you guys this alternator. So bolts do come in different lengths here, guys. This big one is on the top. This is designed to go through the alternator and through an additional bracket. Once it's gone through that bracket, there's going to be threads that it's going to thread into on the other side. The other bolts are much shorter. These go underneath the alternator. You guys will see that just a bit. What I'm doing first here, what I'm doing now is I'm taking the wire off or the battery. This is another reason we didn't put our battery back in. Because I knew putting my battery back in, I would have to disconnect it anyway to do this alternator. So we paused at that point and did not put a battery in it last week. Okay. This is all out. Everything's loose. Now I got to figure out how I want to wiggle this alternator out of here. Okay, here we go. Here's our alternator, guys. So, alternators come in many different shapes and sizes, different setups, different plugins of how they work. There will always be a positive wire that gets attached to it. This big positive wire goes to the battery. There's usually a rubber cap on this, so you have to put that rubber cap back on. You do not want anything touching this post because this could arc out on the car and cause a bunch of sparks. We don't want to see that, especially in a car where you have oils and gasoline and other things that could start a fire. So make sure you guys protect the positive wires. That way you don't have something ground out. Not only that, but it could do a lot of damage. Not only to the alternator itself, but it could do damage to other components in the car, such as the computer. On an old car like this, an 03, if you damage the computer, it's done. You're not going to save it. The amount of cost and time you're going to have tied into it to reprogram a computer, it's just not worth it. Next, you will always have an electrical plug-in. This sends information to the car itself. Not only to the computer, but to your gauge cluster and everything else. If you don't have a voltage gauge in your car, you will have a voltage light. If it gets below a certain threshold, right here is where it'll send the information to turn that light on. We do not want to damage this port because it can cause the vehicle to not charge properly because it's not reading it from the computer. If the computer doesn't sense a certain amount of voltage being put out by this alternator, it will shut the car down as a safety feature to not short out the computer. Next, we will always check to see if there was something that went wrong because it was just badly remanufactured, and I can tell this is a remanufacture because you see stickers like this on it. These are remanufactured stickers, meaning that they take a factory housing, pull everything apart, put new windings, new bearings, and put it all back together. That's what they sell you. If they don't replace that bearing though, that's what we're hearing. So I always take the alternator out of the box and I check it at the parts store. I have taken new alternators or reman alternators, spun them on the counter, and I've listened to them squeak. We can't put this in a car. If that bearing seizes, it destroys everything. Here is our new alternator and our mounting bolts. These two are underneath, like I said, this one's on top. This is a longer bolt that goes through into a secondary bracket. They will always have this on here. You need to take this off. Don't leave that on there. And before it goes in, we spin it. No squeak. The bearing is nice and tight. This is what we want to put in our cars. If we spin that at the auto parts store and it's making noise, give it back, ask for another one, or have them order you a different one in. Do not put it in the car. So next, I'm going to pull my bolt off for the positive. Checking everything, so we're good to go in. I know how it went in, so I'm going to go ahead and set that in, and then I'll bring you guys around. Okay, I'm going to bring you guys in so you guys can see what's going on. It doesn't do me any good if I don't bring you guys in to show you. So when I dropped this in, I dropped it in right through here. I pushed this hose out of the way. This gave me enough room to drop it in there and turn it and face it down. The reason we're facing it down so that we can hook up our wire. That wire has to get attached here. Once we get that wire connected, we will put this first mounting bolt in the top, right there. So right there is where our top mounting bolt will go in. Then we will reconnect our connector, but we want to make sure we're not wrapped around. So like right now, if you guys look, it's wrapped around this coolant, this hose for the AC. We don't want that. We want that on this side. So we want it on this side of that hose. Now we can go ahead and drop this line on here, which is our main power line. And we'll put our bolt on it and tighten this up. So we'll slip it onto here, pull that rubber boot back, put the bolt on it, and tighten that up. I'm going to do that now. Try to move you guys in a spot where you guys can kind of see this process. This is your first time checking out a live stream here, guys. Make sure you guys hit that like button and hit the subscribe. It really does help out the channel, helps us to grow. Like I said, we're trying to do a bunch of stuff this year to help the channel grow. We want to bring you guys merch, do all that other fun stuff, but we can't do that if we haven't reached a certain point. Okay, so I got it where I want it now. I can tighten that up. Check my analytics quick, guys. I'm just going to leave this up in the background for now. So tighten this up. This is our main power wire for our alternator. We want this wire to be tight because we do not want it to arc on the back of the alternator. Yes, we're covering it in a rubber boot, but if it arcs, it's going to have poor charging to the battery. Here's another reason to replace this alternator. Let's say you're doing a new battery in your car and your alternator is squeaking and making a bunch of noise. If you don't replace your alternator at that point, you could wind up wrecking a brand new battery. There's nothing worse than putting new parts on a car and having them go bad because you didn't catch what caused the problem in the first place. So I'm going to put the top bolt in right now. Just going to run it in finger tight. Okay, it's loose by finger, which is good enough. We're going to go ahead and plug our connector on. You'll hear it click when you push it down into place. Try not to push on the wires. Let me bring you around. Try not to push on the wires itself that are sticking out like they are here. Don't push on those wires. Push on the connector off to the side. That's what you where you want to push for that to click into place. I've got 2 bolts underneath that I'm going to put in. Then I'm going to tighten this alternator up. So again, we go finger tight with all of those. We are going into aluminum, so we do not want to go super tight. This is not a situation where you would use an impact or anything with a long lever bar on it. Now, I am using a little bit longer of a ratchet, so I'm going to go really careful with it. Now, with this long of a ratchet, I could very easily over tighten this. If I put my hand up here right now, I could go tight enough and I could snap this. We don't want that. We want it tight, but we don't want to get crazy with it. So on a 3/8, you can get very carried away and break a lot of bolts, especially small ones like these. So usually I just push down with my thumb when I want to limit the amount of torque that I'm putting on a bolt. What that looks like is when you're holding your ratchet. You're holding your ratchet and you're pushing down. You're only pushing down with your thumb because of how long the bar is. If I put my whole hand on here and really push down, I'll just snap it right off. It'll just snap it clean off. So alternator is in. Next, we can go for our belt tensioner. And to get the belt tensioner, we just have to move our power steering pump out of the way, giving us more access. So you guys saw me move the power steering. What we're trying to do is create a hole here. This hole is designed to have that belt tensioner go in. And we've got all of our bolts laid out. Let me go grab that and I will show you. All right, so here is our belt tensioner, guys. This is what's going to do the heavy work of keeping the belt tight as the car is running. We have a center bolt here. We have two more mounting bolts, one here, and then we have bolts for our power steering. I'm going to take the bolts for the power steering right now. I'm going to move these bolts out. I'm going to set these off to the side. We do not want to drop these or lose these in the engine compartment. So I'm going to slide these out, guys. These are my main mounting bolts. These are two short ones, and this is a long one for the center. I'm going to keep the long one for the center in there because I'm going to use that when I set it in to know where to tighten. And that'll be kind of my marker bolt starting all of this whole process. By getting this one bolt in, it'll hold everything in place so I can put the rest of the bolts. Okay, so that bolt is recessed, meaning that I will need to slightly snug this one up. I do not want to go tight until all bolts are in. We do this with every part we put on. We put all the bolts on loose before we tighten anything up. But we do need to take some of the slack out of it because it is kind of slopping around right now. And it's going to be hard to get the bolts in if we're not somewhat snug. We want it loose enough we can move it around, but not tight enough to where it's starting to tighten up. Okay, it should be there now. So, with a situation like this, we're going to do one bolt at a time. We don't want to get carried away and do like 3-4 bolts in here or try to hold on to more than what we can hold and then wind up losing the bolts. So our main trick here is just to get these started by hand. And I'm doing the one I can reach and see before I do the one that I can't see. There's one that is hidden. It's really hard to get my hand in there. So this is the one I could drop. If you drop a bolt, you may need your magnet to pick it back up. Okay, so I've got them started by hand. Now I can go through and kind of bring them a little tighter. The hidden bolt is a problem because it takes time to get in here and get that one tight. And it's very slow moving. If you can get it down by your hand, it'll speed it up, but oftentimes we can't get in there to access that one. So I'm going to use the socket trick. I'm going to hold the socket on it and twist it to get it close to tight. This is a little trick you guys can do. If you drop the socket, make sure you guys got your magnet to pick up your socket. Okay, so everything is hand tight right now. I'll bring you guys around, show you guys what's going on. All right, so here's our brand new tensioner. We had our center bolt right here. We had one right down here and one underneath on the back side here. So back here we had one. These are the 3 bolts that hold this tensioner in place. Again, this one up here and the one off to the side right behind here is to hold this power steering pump on here. That's actually a bracket for the power steering. But we're going to tighten up these 3, then I'll set that one into place. Again, here we don't want to go crazy tight. I could put a whole lot of torque down with this ratchet because it's really long. We don't want to do that and snap these bolts off. Sometimes just going snug with these bolts is more than enough. You don't want to get on here and just start cranking. The center bolt does the majority of the holding for the tensioner. The other 2 are location bolts. So those location bolts don't need to be crazy tight. All right, so now we're going to set this bad boy in here. Slide our bolts in. Okay, I'm seeing something that later on this is going to be a problem for this repair. So I'm going to put these bolts in loose. So I'm going to put these bolts in loose and I'm going to explain why I did this. And why I'm not going to tighten this up. Okay, so I'm keeping my power steering pump loose. You might ask, why did I just see this and why did I stop? Guys, when you do a repair, you have to plan out your repair. If I run this tight, it's going to jam this against the engine and this hose is going to be tight. I'll have a little bit of slack in it, but not what I need. So by leaving this loose, it's going to give me access to take this valve cover off. Why do we got to take that valve cover off? Let's do this one right now, guys. Let's cover why I'm doing the valve cover. So I want to show you guys what I found. All right, you guys are seeing it first here. You guys are seeing this tool here. This is a bore scope. This allows us to get down in here and see what's going on in here. So you guys might have a little hard time with the reflection. I'll move it a little bit. If you guys look close, there's a little bit of oil around the base of this spark plug. That tells me that this tube is leaking, meaning that we need to take the valve cover off, remove these tubes, and put new seals in it. That's where our leak is coming from. That's why we smelled oil when we fired the car up. It's leaking out of the valve cover, but it's also leaking out of that tube. I can't just put a valve cover on here and expect everything to be okay for the customer. Yes, we have oil residue around the valve cover and around one of the corners. I can't just leave it this way. I have to fix it. Again, this car is going to see a lot of miles. One other thing we could do here, guys, one other thing is that by pulling this valve cover, we can see what it would take to do these tubes and be able to do them properly. Not only that, but it allows us with the bore scope to look down inside the cylinder. If we have valve guides that are leaking, we'll see oil sitting on top of the cylinder heads. That is another way to tell if you maybe need to do the head and not just the valve cover. So now that we've kind of tackled this, we've got everything in order over here on the alternator side. Next, why don't we move over to the throttle body before I pull this valve cover. So, get you guys into a good shot here for this. So, right here is our throttle body. By unplugging this, we can simply press on this tab here and pull this up like so. Also, this is going to be plugged into our intake. This is a temp sensor, so we need to unplug that and lift that out of the way. Also, we're going to want to undo this hose. Now, this one's got a very, I don't want to call it a good style clip that holds that hose on. The clip that holds this hose on is actually not a very good style. So we may be upgrading that for them in the future. All right, so I'm going to take this, loosen this. I just want to work this clip. See if I can work it up and off of here. Also, I could take pliers and kind of break the seal of the rubber on the metal. That's another thing we want to do here. Just kind of get that loose. All right, so that came off really nice. Our clip did come undone, but this one is honestly so soft that we can just push it on without having to worry about it. So I'm just going to lift this up. That was a vacuum line, so not a big deal. There's no liquid there. We don't have to worry about making a mess. But we do have to start worrying about our lines down here. That's where we're going to make our mess. So before I tackle these lines, there's one here and one right behind it underneath. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the 4 bolts that are holding this throttle body on so I can disconnect my cable. The reason I do it this way, guys, is so that I can get those coolant lines up so that I'm not going to make a mess. Crack all my bolts loose. I will have to clean this gasket off. This gasket has to seal. on a throttle body, because if it pulls air, you're going to have a high idle situation. It's going to want a high idle line. Okay. I'm going to check something here quick, guys. All right, so keep on going here. Our goal is to get this throttle body loose and away from the engine so we can disconnect the throttle cable. And if the cruise control cable was attached, which it is not, we would want to disconnect that cable as well. Those are not attached because the bracket is broke. This is one reason why we're going to replace this throttle body. Plus, it made more sense to replace the whole throttle body than it did to try to replace that piece on the throttle body. It was better to get an all new setup than it was to try to reuse this old one that would have needed way more work to rebolt it back onto the car. So what we're doing is we're saving ourselves some time. And in a repair situation, time is money. It's good to have you guys in here on this Sunday. We do this every Sunday at 1 p.m. Okay, 4 bolts are out. We have a wire that I want to disconnect before I get too carried away. I don't want to start pulling it and crack all of this. So I'm going to grab my needle nose, I'm going to squeeze that and push that tab through. We could also use a socket and just kind of lightly pound a socket onto it. But I like to grab the needle nose and press both sides of the clip in and then just push it down. That's always worked really good for me. So the only thing that's still attached is our throttle cable and these coolant lines. Okay, that gasket is really sealed on there, guys. And I did find one more connector. I'll show you guys here in just a second once I get it unplugged. Okay, so that one is right here. There's a tab right here that we press, and that loosens it up and we can pull that off. That's on the bottom side underneath the coolant lines. So when we disconnect those coolant lines, we want to make sure that this connector is tucked out of the way. We do not want to get coolant in that connector. So next we need to break this loose from the housing. So old throttle bodies will be sticky because the gaskets will seal everything up. What we're trying to do is get in here and pry up, pop that seal loose. Just like that. Okay. Okay. I'm moving this around. I'm contending with the coolant lines, but I will need to get my throttle cable off. Looking to see how that one is in there. Oof. She's definitely very corroded. Very corroded, very crusty. So we're going to put some anti-seize on that right now. See if we can get that to break up. Actually going to go for some penetrating spray here. Now I get just a little bit on there. This is actually seized in there. And when I looked at the cruise control one, this is the cruise control. It's very corroded. We are going to want to clean that up and get that corrosion off of there. We'll take a little bit of sandpaper and clean that up. But we are going to have to do that to this one as well. And I will probably need a screwdriver to spread some of this apart just to get that to move. This tab is going to be the problem child. It's corroded onto the thick side of the throttle body. There it goes. This is how these work. Okay, we just slid this one off. We've somewhat cleaned it up. We will take some sandpaper and clean those up. Now we are at the point that the hoses are the next one. And one hose will not go far enough to get above our radiator where we want it to, so it's going to leak. Which is all right because we won't have to bleed it out. It won't be a huge issue. But we are going to want to make sure we clean everything up. Don't drop your gasket down in here. So be careful with that. You know what? We're going to go ahead and we're going to clean those posts up now. I'm going to wait until the very last to unhook those coolant lines, guys. Yeah, AMI looks very dirty. Yeah, this is what happens when nobody goes in and does maintenance in a while. This can really get dirty and really kind of messy over time. So it's pretty important for us to clean that up. Just tried something else with my stream. I noticed that I'm kind of being throttled here on YouTube. So we're trying a few things today, guys, just trying to see what works and see what's caused us some of our issues. So we're working on it. So I'll get some sandpaper. All right, we'll grab one at a time. This one was the worst one. This was on the cruise control that was broke off. Because the cruise control, that side of it is actually plastic. So what we're doing is we just want to knock off a layer of this corrosion that's on it. Get this cleaned up. We're only doing this so that when we go to slide this onto the new throttle body, that it won't get caught. And we could actually spray these with a little bit of oil when we put them on so that they don't corrode up. Because the reason this broke in the first place was this got corroded onto the throttle body and then it broke the plastic. This one here is plastic. That's where it broke. It broke up on the bottom side of this. It broke out all of this corner. All of that is broken. I'll show you that, guys, that here in a second. But we are seeing a lot of carbon buildup on these, so it was time to do this repair no matter what. All right, so that's cleaned up. Next, I'm going to go ahead and clean that mating surface, because when I pull these lines, guys, I'm going to have to pull them and put them right back on. I'm actually kind of considering, I'm kind of considering pushing the throttle body off to the side here and dropping the new one into place and then disconnecting the lines and putting them on. And the reason I'm considering that is then I can just unplug them and put them directly in. I'll lose less coolant that way. So I got two things that I use for cleaning gaskets. I use this one if it's really bad. Otherwise, I use this one because I have less chance of damaging the mating surface. So we will just take and clean off any of the old gasket, giving it a clean surface to mate to. I'm scraping away from the bore hole. I don't want to scrape down in here. I want to scrape away from there to not knock any of this debris down into the engine. Any little piece of gasket could hold the gasket up, causing it to not seal flat to the surface. So we want to get all that old gasket material off of there. Even if it looks like a little bit, that little bit could be enough to keep it up high enough that it would pull a vacuum leak. You can feel a ridge or a high spot with your thumb, then that will hold the gasket up. So use your thumb or a fingertip and rub across it. If you feel any high spots, scrape over those high spots to remove that gasket. Guys, this is solid content for you guys. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Help us out. Hit that subscribe. Some of you guys might think, well, why do I need to watch this? Because you're doing it on a Honda. Let me answer that question for you. Do you have a fuel injected vehicle? If the answer is yes, then this is the same process for every fuel injected vehicle. So I'm going to place my gasket on the back side. I'm holding it with my fingers. Actually, I'm going to go one better. We're going to drop the gasket down first, so it's tight against the body. Then I will drop the new throttle body down into it. Now, before I get too carried away with that, ideally now is the time that you want to put your cables in. Now, sometimes you can't do it this way. Sometimes it gets in the way, or you can't move it to where you need it, so you're forced to wait. If you can get them in now, now is the ideal time. One's got just a bit too much corrosion on it yet. Can't get it to go down in there. Yep, if I force it, I'm gonna break it. So I gotta clean that post up a little bit more, guys. Show you guys in a second here what I'm doing. There was such a buildup on this post that I took a razor blade and I'm scratching at the post to remove that buildup of corrosion. I still have a little bit on there that's going to cause problems right by where the wire would go in, so I got to fix that next. Okay, that one's done. I'm going to check my throttle one here. This one is the actual throttle cable. This one's got a little bit of corrosion on it, so I'm going to scratch this one a little bit. Just kind of make it a little easier for myself when I go to put it on the new throttle body. All right, we will try that. Okay, so new throttle body. Start by seeing if we can plug these cables in. So that was our cruise control. This one is our throttle. Bit of a hassle trying to wiggle around everything. What I'm trying to do, guys, is get the cables sit down in where they're supposed to when I press this down. I don't want the cables out of the runners. I'll show you those runners here once I get this seated. Okay. Looking good. I'm going to get a bolt put in there. Be careful placing anything over the top of this, guys. When you're, anytime you have an open engine, be very careful what you put over the top of that engine. Because if you drop something down in there, you have to get it out before you start the engine. You cannot just let bolts or anything fly or fall inside that engine. Sometimes I will even run a vacuum in there if I think there's even a little bit of dust and dirt and debris in there. And that is just to make sure that everything is clean in there. So we do not want to silicone that gasket. We can, and it has been done, but we don't want to if we don't have to, guys. This should seal without having to put silicone on it. We're getting to the point where we can start dealing with these coolant lines. I just have one stubborn bolt that I want to get it seated in there. And I will probably tighten up this throttle body at this time. Okay, this was a stubborn bolt. The one I'm on right now could have very easily cross-threaded, I didn't like how it felt, so I backed it out, repositioned the ratchet. If you cross thread these and you're trying to run these down, you will not get this to seal. Everything has to go to a certain level of tight on these throttle bodies so that gasket seals up. And if you don't get them tight, they don't seal. Okay, so our throttle body is on. We're gonna go ahead and put our first hose on. This one is to seal for vacuum. That one's done. Our throttle cable and our cruise control cable are attached. We can move our connector over. We can connect this one. Click. This is where it'll sit. And can do. We can go ahead and connect this one that's on the bottom here. What this will do is help us to not get coolant in it when we switch these hoses. So now that those are connected, that is connected. That is connected for our wire. All that's left is our coolant lines. Our coolant lines on here are going to be a bit of a pain. There is some rust and some corrosion, so if I don't like the connectors, I'm going to take them off and I will put new style connectors on it. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm breaking one of the connectors loose. And sliding it off. Okay, so I heard some gurgling. That tells me there was a little bit of air in the system. We are going to have to do a bleed on this when we finally get this car running. So it should not have gurgled like that. There should have been coolant there. Yeah, there should have been coolant in this hoses, guys. Plus, we have a mark on these. Kind of hard to see with that in the way. Let me tuck that out of the way. So on here, there is a mark from where the hose clamp has been. We do not want to reuse that, guys. So you might ask yourself, I just went through, I put a new throttle body on it. Why am I having coolant leaks down below my throttle body when I have coolant running through my throttle body? You will only have coolant running through throttle bodies on older model vehicles. The reason why is they use the coolant for the high idle. I'll get into a little bit here with the high idle in just a bit. I do want to get these hoses connected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip off just at the edge of where that connector was. And the reason I'm going to the edge of the connector here, guys, so that I can save as much of this hose as I can. Okay? So now I can press that on there, and I can feel it going tight already. That's a good sign. So now I will use needle nose. Squeeze the clamp. So by doing this, snipping this piece off, what I'm doing, I'll show you guys on this one up here a lot easier. So by snipping this off, what I'm doing is I'm giving it a better mating surface down below here. This will allow it to hold the hose tight. If I were to just slide this on right now and put the clamp on it, it would seep. We don't want that seeping. So we avoid that, trimming off the piece that has been on there and held tight for so long where it's gotten kind of in bad shape. Now, if you cut these hoses and they start to crack or break, then you just need to put new hoses on it. Do not do this trick and slide it back on if the hoses start to crack. Okay. So a little bit of coolant out of this one. But we are going to have to go through a coolant bleed, guys. That will be this procedure on startup. Just to go through a coolant bleed out. Again, I'm sliding it on far enough that I know it'll seal. And then I'm putting the clamp on it to where it'll hold tight. Now, do know that sometimes when you go to put the intake tube on, if you're too close to a connector here, it won't allow you to actually put the tube on. So sometimes you have to rotate these down and out of the way so that they don't get in the way of the intake. But these should be tight. You should not be able to pull these off. This one here is a vacuum. We can slide this off by hand. We don't want to do it too much and break the hose, but this one is just a vacuum. It doesn't hold as tight. This little clip is just meant to hold it so it actually gets vacuumed. So this will get pushed up out of the way when we put our air box on. The reason I'm going to hold on the air box is the same reason we held off on the power steering pump on the other side, guys. So I'm going to pull some of my tools out and we are going to start on that valve cover. Okay, so I promised I would explain idle to you guys real quick. How idle works. There has been much that has been debated about this topic for a long time. So let me give you the tips and tricks here. First, when you start your car, don't put it into gear right away. You want to let the engine idle and circulate the oil. That oil must circulate so that the engine is protected before you put a load on it. This is the key right here. Do not add a load to that engine until you know for a fact that the high idle drops down. What is a high idle? A high idle was designed a long time ago for old school engines, still active today, guys, still important today. The reason that the high idle exists is to get oil where it needs to be and bring the engine up to temp before you put a load on it. Engines are not designed to run without having some temp in them if you're going to pull a load. And where people pull the loads is when they put it into gear and they start driving. That's when the load situation happens. So, doesn't matter if you have an older car like this or a newer one like our Kia over here. Okay? These are all going to have a high idle setup in them. It's going to be built in. It might be electronic, ran through the throttle body, so there's no coolant lines, or it's going to be old school like this where there's coolant lines going through that throttle body. If you have the coolant lines going through, it has to have coolant in it. If it doesn't have that coolant running through there, and I need to figure out why there was no coolant when we pulled those lines, because there needs to be coolant in there. If the coolant's not in there, we need to be more concerned, because that will affect high idle time. So, why is high idle time so important? Well, not only does it bring your engine up to temp and allow you to get more and better performance while it's running, but also it's designed to protect the engine from destruction at cold temperatures. That destruction happens rather quickly when we deal with cold temps. Why is that? It happens because it happens with all metal. Metal will shrink when it gets cold. That shrinking causes gaps to appear. Normally wouldn't be there under normal engine running temperatures. So as the engine warms up, those gaps close up, meaning that it will seal better. It will maintain compression. Rings are a good example of that. If you have bad rings, you'll notice it more when the engine's cold than when the engine's warm. Now, if you're noticing problems like burning oil when it's warm, it's already gone too far, and it's already ran several times without being brought up from the high idle before they drove it. So we fix that by making sure we let that high idle come down. What's base idle? Let's cover that real quick. Base idle is usually anywhere from 600 to 750 RPMs. That's base idle. We want the RPMs under 900. When they're under 900, you're good to go. You can put it into drive and take off. This is where a lot of the YouTube mechanics and some of the smaller shops have got it wrong. They got it wrong because sometimes they'll tell you, just put it into gear and go. Bad idea. Or they'll let you idle it for far too long. There's another way to do it, but it does extend idle time, does use more fuel, but you're guaranteed that the engine's going to run at its optimal. That is letting it idle until the temp needle starts to move. Once the temp needle starts to move, your RPMs should already be close to base idle, meaning that you're good to go at that point. But the biggest factor is to pay attention to the idle. That high idle has to come down. It has to come out of high idle. If it's in a high idle and you're putting it into gear, you're doing damage to your car. So now that we've covered that, give me ones in the chat if that makes sense to you guys. Ones in the chat if that makes sense. You guys are doing that. I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup and get ready for this valve cover. One's in the chat if that made sense. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, mods, give me a 2 in the chat if the stream looks crisp and clean. I need to know this because I may decide to start streaming in 4K. 4K would change how the stream is laid out. It would no longer be full cell phone. It would be just the top half of your cell phone versus full screen. At this point, I know I need to try a few things, so I just need to know if the picture is nice and crisp and clean and if everything looks good. If it's still too bright, I kind of need to know that too. So. Okay. Awesome, awesome, awesome. That's good. All right, we're going to keep rolling, guys. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to start pulling this valve cover. The reason why is we know there's an oil leak. We know we need to fix it. We know where it is based on what we saw in our bore scope. So to give you guys a little bit of background here, before I started this stream, I looked down with the bore scope down inside where the spark plugs were on all of them. That's where I found the one with the oil. I wanted to do a little diagnosis ahead of time so I knew what we were looking at. I already showed you guys the bore scope, so you guys already know that. Now what we're going to look at is we're going to look at what we need to do to get in there to fix that oil leak. I can't give it back to the customer leaking oil like this. It isn't going to work for them. Over time, that leak is going to get worse, almost to the point that it could build up so much oil in there that the oil will actually cause a fire because it's right next to a coil. Why do we not want any coolant? Well, I don't want to say coolant because coolant's different. It will conduct electricity, but it won't cause a fire like something else. Why do we not want oil or gasoline near our coils? Wait for the chat here, see if you guys get it. Why do we not want oil or fuel near coils? You guys are doing that. I'm going to shift you guys around a little bit. I'm going to need a little bit of room to work on this. Okay, if you don't know, now you will. The reason we don't want those two components near coils is coil will cause a spark. That spark is the ignition for a fire. Oil will be the fuel. All it needs is air. There is plenty of air underneath your engine hood. That just adding the spark with an oil leak is enough to cause a fire. We do not want fires in our engine bays, and when we see oil leaks on top of valve covers, we have to fix them because that spark could ignite the oil, and there's enough air in there that it will start a fire. If you have a leaking fuel line, do not drive it until you fix that fuel line because it could spray fuel everywhere underneath the hood. All it takes is one wire to be arcing or to arc on a battery or anything for it to ignite. You could even catch voltage, low voltage off of your coils if it's spraying fuel in the engine bay. So if you ever have oil or fuel, don't run it and fix it. Also, pro tip for you guys. If you don't have a garage that has running water, you can use this to clean your hands. This will not harm you. It's not bad for your skin. You can clean the oils off your hand. You do not want to leave oils on your hand. If it's really bad, you should be using gloves. I'm not using gloves because this is just dirt. So I'm not super concerned about what is on my hands right now. But as we move into doing this valve cover, I will get oil on my hands. So I'm probably going to glove up for this one. Realistically, there shouldn't be any oil. The engine hasn't ran in a while. It should all be drained down, but we may get a little residual. So, like I said, guys, today is a very heavy day. We're doing a lot of things today. So here's what might happen. We might wind up pulling this valve cover and realize I need to get some new seals for the tubes, for the spark plugs. So what we're worried about where the oil leak is in a spark plug tube. Those tubes are usually pressed down into the head. There's a seal on the bottom. That seal is leaking down there. So I need to get the valve cover off to look at the tubes. Then I need to figure out how I can get the tubes out to replace that seal. There's only one that's leaking, but if I can get them all as a set, we're just going to replace them all. This is how you do a proper repair. Just because you see one leaking, you have to buy a kit that has all four. Don't just put the one in. Because what's going to happen? What's going to happen is you'll put the one in, but the other ones will start leaking. Why? Because it's uneven. There's uneven pressure when you put that valve cover down, and now you're going to have leaks on the other ones. So if we're going to do this, we're going to do this right. We're going to take all the tubes out. We're going to replace all the seals and put everything back together the way it should be. Now these tubes should pop out pretty easily. We may have to wrestle. This motor has been together for a long time. It's clear the maintenance hasn't been done to this. I can show you guys a spark plug real quick, and this will give you an idea on exactly what we're dealing with. This is the old plug. As you guys can see, there's a little bit of charring down below here. That burn mark is signs that the plug is used up. It means this plug has seen better days. If we were to gap this plug would be off on its gap. The reason it's off on its gap is over time of arcing back and forth, it slowly eats away at that metal. And the gap gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I've seen it where this has been twice the size that it was supposed to be. These aren't super, super bad because this was running iridium plugs, meaning that that doesn't normally happen unless a little piece of iridium on the tip falls off. Then the gap gets really big and the arc isn't as strong. If the arc isn't as strong, it doesn't ignite the fuel, causing bad fuel mileage and a whole bunch of other things. Now, when we scanned this, we said, I told you guys, we had a bad O2 sensor. If it would have been reading off, meaning that the fuel was unburned, it's reading rich, we would have pointed to this. Because this was not igniting the fuel. But that code told me all I needed to know on the O2 sensor. It told me clearly that the heating element was out of it. On an O2 sensor, you have the sensor side that tells you exactly where the fuel ratio is to the computer, meaning that it's going to work to keep it at stoichiometric. Stoichiometric is 14.7 to 1. That's what it tries to maintain at all times. If it's maintaining that fuel ratio, then your engine's running ideally. When it falls below that, that's when you start running into problems. Or if it starts running too rich, that's another problem. So how that metric works. Let's say it's running lean. Lean means the number is going to go higher. So it's going to be more than 14.7 to 1 when it goes lean. Because you're having more air, less fuel. If it goes lower, let's say it's going richer, it will go down to 11, 12, 13. On a race car setting, you can see stoichiometrics pretty close to 12 to 13. You run rich so that you don't wind up causing a pre-detonation in the cylinder and causing the engine to blow up. If it's too lean, you can get it too hot and you can burn out the rings. So you try to keep to that stoichiometric at 14.7. That is ideal. Because these plugs look the way they do, they are at the point of needing to be replaced. They're not the cause of our engine code though. Our engine code is a bad O2 sensor on its heating element. All right, so now I'm going to take off the last bolt that I have, which is a 10 mil. I've already pulled the bolts for the valve cover, and I'm going to show you guys the bolts here in just a second. And then we're going to pop the washers off, and there's rubber grommets that hold this valve cover down. So here's our bolt. Little crown-headed style bolt. This is what we're taking off. And there is there's 6 of them on this engine. Let me pop off a grommet and I'll show you guys. Pop one here for you. Okay, here's our metal washer. This is what forces the grommet down. Here's our rubber grommet. This is really hard. Super hard. Shouldn't be this hard. Shouldn't be this stiff. What's going to happen is if we put a new gasket in it, we'll do okay for a little bit, but it's going to start leaking rather quickly. And the reason why is because these rubber grommets hold that valve cover down. Most people don't replace the rubber grommets on newer valve covers. Not replacing these is a guarantee that you're going to have an oil leak at your valve cover. So if you're putting a new valve cover gasket in it, make sure it comes with the grommets. So before I completely pull this off, I'm going to run my vacuum on this, and I will mute you guys for that vacuum part of this. You guys don't need to listen to that vacuum. Some of the other reason we're going to vacuum in here, we want everything to be nice and clean before we take anything apart. The other pro tip here, guys, we do not, pro tip, we do not want anything to fall in this engine. So our spark plugs need to be in their hole. We do not want to take this apart with the spark plugs out and have those plugs out and have something fall directly down into the cylinder. So we need to vacuum all of that out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my vacuum quick, and I think I'm going to mute you guys once I got it set up. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to mute you guys here real quick. Oil on my mouse, I like that. See how this works, guys. Okay, you guys should not have heard any of that noise. Give me ones in the chat if you guys did not hear the vacuum. Ones in the chat if you guys did not hear the vacuum. Two more grommets I'm going to work off while you guys are waiting to see. You guys should not have heard the vacuum running. One of the rubber grommets fell on the floor, so I'm not concerned about that. That's perfectly okay. Awesome, wonderful, awesome. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and use my screwdriver here, guys. We're going to want to take this valve cover loose. I need to see how to get those tubes up. We have a leak there. That leak has to be fixed. Before I disconnect anything, I'm going to look around my valve cover, make sure I don't have anything attached. Good thing I did. Right here, I got two 10 millimeters that are holding hoses. You want to double check before you go and try pulling or prying on this. I wouldn't damage these hoses, guys. Smart move is to take these off and go put these onto the new valve cover and just turn them in. You don't have to go all the way down, just go in far enough. reason you're doing that is so you don't lose those bolts when you put it back together. There's another pro tip for you guys. When you buy a new valve cover, and the reason we're doing that is this one has a lot of corrosion on it, not worth the time to clean it up. It's cheaper to buy a new valve cover. What you can do is look around the valve cover, see where the mounting points are. So we had 2 screws back here, we had a hose here, we have a connector here for our cables, for our coils, and then we have our 6 mounting points located on the cover. You guys can clearly see where the mounting points are on here. So we have a mounting point here, one here, 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 and down here. It did not come with a new oil cap, so we're going to reuse the one we got. Okay. Also, we're going to be reusing our dipstick tube as well. So next, we can go ahead and wiggle this cover and get this loose. Okay, it's loose. It's starting to try to come up. Go. This is why we didn't bolt this back down, guys. It's right here. That hose is actually getting in my way. This is a very simple fix. We take these 2 bolts out that we put in for a power steering pump. Good thing we didn't put our belt on right away. Guys, this is why we do it live, right here. You guys are seeing why we do this live. Anyone else that would have done this video and pre-recorded it, this would have got edited out. Okay, so 2 bolts are out of the power steering pump. We can now slide this pump forward or back towards the engine, pulling this so that this is away from the valve cover. What this will do is will give us the room to pull the valve cover up and out of the way. Pull the dipstick out a little. Set that down over here. We're also going to take the oil cap, oil, right here. This one is 520. Put it right into the new cover. All right, so we have O-rings in here for those tubes. This is the top seal. If you're leaking here, it's going to pour down in, and it's going to fill that tube. If it's leaking down below, it's going to leak around the base. We need to get those tubes in. Okay, so I'm looking at those tubes. I gotta do some more research on those before we just go jerking those out. That means the valve cover is not gonna go back on. During this process, I wanna make sure that the engine is gonna be safe and nobody's gonna tamper with it. So when I'm done today, I'm gonna close the hood on it so that no one has access to it unless they pop open the hood. This way I can guarantee nothing's gonna fall down in there or somebody isn't gonna drop something inside the engine that I will have to fish out. This is how you secure an engine when it has to be open. Make sure you cut it off so that no one can put anything in the engine. Right now, those tubes look like they're pressed in. If they're pressed in, this means the head has to come off and it has to go to a shop. Hoping that's not the case, I'm hoping I can pull the tubes out, but I gotta see if I need a special tool to pull those out. I have a feeling I will need a special tool. Probably something with a rubber strap that I can wiggle it back and forth while I try to pull up, so that I can cause that reverse movement to get it up out of there. That being said, where I'm at, I could put my intake back together, I could put the battery in it, but there's really no point in putting the battery in right now with the engine in its current state. We can't drive it like this, so it doesn't really pay to put a battery in it. Also, what we can do is check our chain, make sure our chain is tight. If we have a lot of slack in our chain or our teeth look bent or broken, now is the time to replace it. And this one, the timing chain actually looks pretty great. I cannot complain about how this timing chain looks. It's still really tight, which is a good sign. Only thing I'm concerned about is that one spark plug. So, before I switch to the news, we're gonna go ahead and pull that plug and we're gonna bore scope down inside there. I wanna know what's going on inside that cylinder. Is it still good or is it filled with oil? Let's take a look. So the one that had oil in it is number 3. And it's loose. Not a good sign. Now I have not torqued down the other spark plugs. That is something that you will do when you're getting ready to finalize this repair. You'll torque those down. We're not doing that today. Okay. So if we had a lot of oil in there, we would notice oil up here. How I can confirm that is by putting the bore scope in it. So I'm going to turn on my bore scope, and I'm going to get down past the threads, and I want to see inside that cylinder. I don't have enough torque. All right, guys, the piston is right there. All right, guys. We have a situation. Let me clean up, then we're going to transition over and I'll get into the descriptive part of what I just saw. All right, so you guys will hear this sound effect again in a little bit, but we're going to do this for a different reason. You guys will hear it for the news in just a little bit here, but we need to cover what I just saw when I looked into the borescope. So you know what? Let me see if I can find something for you guys. Yeah, we'll cover the news here in just a bit, guys. What I'm looking for. Honda Accord, 2.4 liter. They're pointing out where the solenoids are, the valve cover, power steering. This is kind of breaking down, fixing all the oil leaks. What it's not going to cover is the valve guides. So this picture that you guys see right here, this one down here. See how we got all this oil crust on the valves? This is from a bad valve guide seal where the oil runs down onto the bottom of the valve and gets down into the cylinder. And what you're smelling on the initial startup is the burning of the oil. The one next to it is a clean valve. Actually, that's a brand new valve. They will not look that good after they've ran. There will be some carbon buildup on it, but this, the amount of oil around this tells you that the valve guides have failed. The seals for the valve guides have failed. Now, what could have also happened is the guide could have wore out. If that guide wears out, it won't allow that valve to stay straight when it's going up and down in the cylinder. It'll go off to the side and it'll actually catch that seal. It'll tear it. And then you'll have a permanent leak there. But what this is going to tell me is that no matter what we do, we're going to have oil there. I can't fix it by changing out that tube. It won't get better because the oil is coming from the guide. It's not coming from the tube. The oil is actually getting forced up. That's why the spark plug was loose. Even if we tighten that spark plug down, it's still going to have that leak inside the cylinder. Now, on a diesel, this would be a bad thing. Very, very, very bad thing. If this would be a diesel engine, that would cause the engine to run away. It would start running off the oil in the engine and not on the diesel fuel. You do not want that because as long as it can constantly get a feed of oil, it will keep running. It'll keep running faster and faster and faster, runs away, meaning that it just keeps going until the engine blows itself up. This, wish I could find a better picture here for you guys. Because when I look down inside the cylinder, once I look past the head, I could see the top of the piston. And the top of the piston had oil residue on the top. A normal piston should not look wet on the top of the piston. This had a little bit of seepage. It wasn't horrible, but there's enough there that tells me that's where my oil leak is coming from. This is an older engine. It is an older car, and it may not be worth fixing. This very well could be something that we put the plug in it, put the valve cover on it, seal it back up. They drive it until it just gives up the ghost. And it could run a very long time the way it is, or it could run a short time. You just don't know. This is on a newer style V8 head. But right here, this little rubber piece that my red cursor is on, this is the seal. This keeps the oil from going down into the cylinder. It keeps it from going all the way down to the bottom of the valve, and then when the valve opens, the oil goes down into the engine. That's what those seals do. They start out as a slow leak that you smell on initial startup. They start turning into blue smoke coming out your exhaust. When it gets really bad, it starts chewing up oil, and lots of it. This is not the news that my customer wanted to hear. It's not the news I wanted to tell my customer. But repairs take us where they take us because we don't know how vehicles are going to run over time. And each vehicle is different, and how it was maintained definitely tells that story. I can tell this one probably hasn't had oil changes on a regular basis. They should. So that probably led to some of the problem here. We can probably point to the maintenance not being done on this car and them just driving it the way it is. A lot of things pointed to that. The fact that they put in a new alternator but didn't replace the tensioner, that was number one. Number two, I looked at the top of the engine and saw nothing has been touched as far as seals. Next, I looked at the tune-up. How did the coils look? How did the plugs look? They both looked really bad and really old. Next, I looked at the hose clamps. Hose clamps told me only one had been replaced. These are all blaring red flags. When you're buying a used car, you want to look at these things. You want to look at the condition, the hoses, the clamps, of where the coils are, the covers. Do they take the time to clean the engine bay? Or does it look like it's been ran through a mud pit? These are all huge red flags, guys. And unfortunately, this one has some red flags. And what I'm seeing so far, I think it would be wise for me to get this running for my customer, do the best that I can. Try to keep costs down, let them run it as long as they possibly can, but tell them to prepare to purchase a different car. That this one will give them probably about a year, year and a half under heavy driving. After that, it's gonna start chewing through oil. And once it starts chewing through oil, if you're using it as reliable transportation to move people or move stuff, you can't keep it. You got to get rid of it because it's just not reliable enough for you. Can somebody fix this? Here's the $1 million question. You can. Oh, you can. Let's go ahead and do a new search here, guys. This is how you figure out if a car is worth fixing, right here. Pro tip, guys, if you guys haven't hit that like button, make sure you guys do. I'm bringing you guys solid fire content that shows you guys how to save yourselves money. We haven't even gotten into the news yet. You guys see all my news topics up top. I still got all that to cover yet. So, what I'm going to be looking for is, yeah, it's going to make some noise because I have it all on buttons. So all my sound effects are hooked to buttons, guys. So when I type things with numbers, yeah. All right. This is how easy you can find things like torque specs, replacement gaskets, all this stuff. So we're just going to put in the cylinder head for now. What I'm doing is I'm looking up cylinder heads. Now, when you look here and you see the eBay heads, don't buy these. Do not buy these from eBay. They're not done right. I've bought a head off of eBay for a Saturn. You know what? Let's go back in time. Back in time, you guys may remember, I owned the red sled, which was a Saturn SC1 with a 1.4 liter twin cam. That thing was great on fuel mileage. That's why I invested the money. I bought one of these eBay heads. When I took it in to have it machined, I found out that the mating surfaces were not flat, the valves were not done right, the seals were not pressed in right, and this head would have caused me nothing but problems. Big fail. Do not buy these off of eBay or Amazon. Stay away. Jegs, you could probably get it, but look at the price here, guys. You're looking at $600. And let me tell you something. For the amount of rust on this car, I wouldn't invest $600 for a head. I wouldn't. It's not that I don't think the car can't be brought back to life. It's that I don't think the car is worth the money. And when you look at cars like this and you have to make that decision, you weigh all factors. That's the pro tip. Weigh all the factors. Does it have rust? Okay. Does it have high miles? Has it had any maintenance done to it at all? And if the answer is no, this is all blaring red flags, guys. All red flags. But you are looking at spending at least $500 for a head. Like I said, don't buy them from Amazon. Do not buy them from eBay. Gotta stay away from there. I have not bought from Cylinder Heads International. They may have pretty good heads. I have not tried them. The biggest thing is look at the price points. This is how you decide. When you're looking at the price points here, you can see the cheapest one goes for under $300. You get one here that's a refurbished on the higher end of $300. I bought a refurbished. and it was still. So I would be saying you're in this ballpark to refurbish that head. You know what? Hold up. Pro tip, you're going to do this. Take the head that you have on the car off and fix that head. Take it to a machine shop that can machine out that head properly, put new guides in it, and put the head back together properly. Reuse what you've got. Here's the reason why. By reusing what you got, you know what you have. And you can actually get more power out of it when you do that. Because when you shave the head to deck it, you're bringing the combustion chamber down and to gain more compression. That compression is going to equal more horsepower. I was able to prove that in the Saturn SC1 that I rebuilt. That car could not pull a hill in third gear without having to downshift into second because the motor was getting tired. Motor was getting tired because the rings had gotten seized up inside the pistons and were not holding tight. It was getting too much blow by. That caused the rebuild. When I actually machined a head and got it put on, it raised the horsepower enough that I was able to pull that very same hill in fifth gear. It was a 5-speed. 5-speed manual. I was able to pull the very same hill in fifth gear. So that tells you guys that what it means when we rebuild something. When we rebuild it, we need to rebuild it better than what we got it from the factory. But yeah, seeing stuff like this, guys.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm usually far more composed. I'm just a little bit absolutely livid.
Because I know they're taking shortcuts. I know they're cutting corners. When they sell this head for this much, guaranteed, they cut some corners and you're going to pay the price. Because you're going to wind up taking that head back off because you're thinking, it's a refurbished head. I can put it on and I'm not going to have any problems. Wrong. You're going to have nothing but problems. And the reason you're going to have nothing but problems is because they cut the corners. You're not going to see it because it's all in machining. We're talking very, very small imperfections. When a head is not perfectly flat, it doesn't seal, meaning the head gasket won't seal. That's not something your naked eye is going to see. That's the problem with that. All right, so what that means is I will need to contact my customer yet again and have a talk with him. See how he wants to proceed. I know he's going to ask my opinion, and some of it is going to come down to how much money does he want to burn through to fix this car. I don't know. Just don't know on that. So we're going to go ahead and close this out. And let's transition over, guys. All right. I'm going to check chats one more time here before we get into the news. And then we're going to get after this. Hey, I love the back in time sound effect. Yeah, I added that one to my mouse, so I got... Guys, whenever you stream, you're going to do something like this. Pro tip for you guys. When you do streaming, you're going to have a mouse like this so you can control your sound effects a lot faster. That way you don't have big pauses in between and you can actually click through a couple of different topics. So, yeah, kind of like... Let's get into it. All right. So we're going to go through Motor Trend real quick. We're going to go through Drive real quick. And then I'm going to move into a topic that is going to get me in even more trouble than I already am on this particular platform. The reason I'm doing this is, frankly, I don't care. I'm going to tell the truth. And if I had a question in my ear from my producer. Could you repeat? Hey, editor, repeat what you just said. I didn't quite hear you. Okay, so I am teaching you guys how to work on cars. I was just showing you guys a little behind the scenes. I'll save those for the members only in the future. So, all right, we're going to get into the news topics, guys. So let's go ahead. I'm teaching you guys about cars, car stuff that can get into news topics as well. So we are going to cover the news section of automotive, and then you guys are going to see some of this does get political. And that's because there is political interest behind what's going on in the automotive industry currently. I was not able to see that comment. Chat's behind. Okay. Worry about it right now. All right. Let's keep going. All right. So we'll start out here on Motor Trend, and then we're going to get into the Drive, which is another news source that I use. Guys, I don't always agree with them, so just know that this is part of what we do here. So we do got to look at what the competition says so we know what we're fighting against. So anyone who thought this Barracuda was not part of muscle car legacy, you guys are not smart.
You stupid.
The reason why is these cars were extremely light and had big horsepower engines in them that were even comparable to the cars that weighed twice as much as they did. These cars absolutely dominated the drag strip back in the day. This car is not something you would mess around with. Modern cars today might even have a problem with this car. And that all depended on if it had the big block engine in it and if any work was done to that big block. These things did great by just putting a cam in it and a different carburetor. Just by doing that, you could push these things well over 400 horsepower. Now, would that challenge the supercars of today? Nope. Not a chance. But for the baseline Camaros, Mustangs, and even the baseline Challengers, this car would still do really well against them, if not beat them. So yes, this is part of muscle car history right here. Some of these news topics are not worth covering. Okay, guys. First of all, right here, this white truck, that's an EV. So they're promoting the EV alongside their half-ton and their Colorado. Let's go ahead and look into this. The reason I know this is the EV, guys, there is no split between the cab and the box. This is the unibody style. This is being done to compete being done to compete with the Ford Maverick.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm usually far more composed. I'm just a little bit absolutely livid.
We already talked about this. We already talked about this car. So our first one that it's showing us is the Colorado. And this is what they're looking at for their lineup in 2026, guys. They're showing the ZR2, which is their off-road truck, not the Trail Boss that they were advertising. Guys, this is clickbait. You're looking at clickbait here. Right here. The new Trail Boss is here. Click into it, scroll down. The first truck is the ZR2, not the Trail Boss. Trail Boss is a separate package with less add-ons. It's supposed to be less power, but GM messed that one up. Sorry, wrong button. Thumb slipped. But yeah. Right here, ZR2 Bison trim. It's not the Trail Boss. False advertisement. Next, we're moving into what I'm going to guess is their ZR2 half ton, because I'm pretty sure it's right up here. Again, not the Trail Boss. Yep, ZR2 trim right there. Finally, we get into the HD series. These, let's see, are they going to do? I'll deal with that piece of crap down there in just a second. Again, ZR2. So this whole article is false advertising. It's clickbait, guys. They're trying to get you to click into this to look at all their ZR2 off-road packages. It's not Trail Boss. Trail Boss is a whole different package. So, again, this is why I said Motor Trend isn't always the best here, guys. So, this piece of crap is the EV Silverado. This thing is a straight up dumpster fire of a truck that has really crappy range and would take you forever to charge on a level 2 if you wanted to actually use this as a regular truck. I'm going to get into that once we get into the EV topic here in just a second, guys. So here they want you to go into these. These are all the minor updates. Do you guys see this? What are they saying here on all the gas and diesel powered? What are they saying here? Tell you what they're trying to push. Trying to push that EV by saying significant updates, meaning it isn't as bad as you think it is. Yeah. That's my opinion on it. All right, we'll back out of this. This kind of gets into today's topic right here, guys. Should you buy a used EV? And unless you're willing to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to put in a battery, don't do it. Don't do it. Number one, you guys are about to see the mileage on them. I'm going to show you guys real numbers. Like I said, at this point, I don't care what YouTube does to me. I'm going to show you guys the truth, and I'm going to let the chips fall where they may. Because at this point, I don't care about censorship. I don't care about any of that. If I'm not telling you guys the truth, you guys aren't going to be able to decipher this In the next 2 years, the automotive industry is going to change so much. It's going to be hard to tell what is EV and what isn't. Because remember what I said. What did I say a few weeks ago? I said EVs were going to become a hybrid. A hybrid meaning that they're going to use the gas engine to charge the battery. That gas engine's not connected to a drive line, and it only charges the battery. That's going to be the new form of EVs that you guys are going to have to deal with, and it's not going to be a good thing. That's what's coming at you guys. The people that are smart enough are going to hold on to their cars, and they're not going to buy used EVs. You guys are about to see why here in just a little bit. I did a lot of homework on this topic for you guys today. So make sure you guys are hitting that like button and the subscribe button. Seriously. We got to push this, and we got to get this out there for people to see this information. What I'm about to drop to you guys, once we get back past the drive page for the news, guys, you will never buy an EV. Never. You guys are going to see the range on them. You guys are going to see the battery cost replacements. You're going to see the increments of when the warranties run out. You guys will know the truth here today. I'm not going to hide it from you. So we will cover that topic in just a bit. Let's cover this favorite topic, guys. This has been really hot in the news cycle this week. Really hot in the news cycle. Is the SRT back? Bruh. Here's the thing, man. Let's be perfectly honest. What we're going to see from them is more sneaky tricks. The previous company CEO is coming back. And he's going to do some changes, especially Tim, right here, this guy. He was the head of the whole power movement among Dodge back when they were Fiat. Guys, from a company that's pushing e-torques, I don't know how much we can trust this. We should not be getting excited about Hellcats and SRTs coming back until we see what the final product is and we can see the powertrains. We're too far out yet. We are way too far out to see what the powertrains are going to be. If they put the e-torques in all of these SRTs, it's over. It's literally over for that company if they put the e-torques in. The e-torques don't carry the warranty that an EV does. Not only that, the e-torques are a high point of failure. Put a basic alternator on it, put the horsepower back in it, and people will buy it. I got a feeling they're not going to. Here's the reason why they're not going to. Because their whole push is towards the EV market. Stellantis wants nothing to do with gasoline horsepower. They've done everything in their power to go against it. And because they're going against it, this ain't going to stand. They're going to shut this down as soon as they can. What they're trying to do is drive people back to the brand long enough and trick them into buying EVs for you guys to get stuck with EVs, not a piece of automotive history. That's what's going to happen. I want to know if the powertrain is partial EV. I want to know if they're just using the engine to charge the battery. I got a sneaky feeling that's what's coming. You guys heard it here first. I got a feeling their engine that they're going to put in the SRTs is going to charge an EV battery. I really hope I'm wrong. But somehow I got a feeling I'm not. See if they give any hints in here. Okay, first thing I see, guys. They're showing you pictures of old SRTs. Why would they be doing this? Ask yourself, why would they be showing you pieces of old school, historic horsepower and legacy among the brand? Again, another old picture. Why? If this was released from the SRT camp, why would they be showing you this? You got to ask yourself this question. Why would they be asking you this? Well, they'd be asking this for one obvious reason. And that obvious reason is this isn't what you're going to get. This is what they're using to get you in to buy the new SRTs. And the new SRTs are not this. They will not be this. They will not have the horsepower. They will not do anything that these vehicles could. This car still stands as one of the biggest supercars ever made. They're not going to do that again. They're not going to invest like that. They're going to do something different. But knowing who owns the company, they're pulling the purse strings, not Tim. Tim could put all this forward and say, no, we want you to take an engine and we want you to make it to where it charges the battery and we'll call it the SRT package. If SRT, hold on. If SRT comes back and it has 6 cylinders in it, then you guys already know. That 6 cylinder is used to charge a battery. It ain't hooked to a driveline. Not on an SRT. It doesn't produce enough power to make it worthwhile. But if it's hooked to a battery, then they can get away with rebadging it as SRT. I really hope I'm not hitting this button in the next few months, but I got a feeling I will be.
Bruh. Well, I sure hope somebody picks up that phone, because I f***ing called it!
I got a feeling I'm going to be hitting that button in the next few months, especially when the new drivetrain gets released this fall. You guys will hear it here. You guys will hear it here. I will bring you guys what's going on. I will break that car down as soon as there's pictures released. It will be on my next week's live. I promise you that. All right, we'll go ahead and get into the drive next. So, after an investigation, the Dodge Darts are going to be returning under a recall situation. Again, they want to talk about this, and they're saying why people are not wanting to get behind this. Because, yes, for the longest time, SRTs have been the go-to car when it comes to modern muscle and horsepower. The reason nobody's getting behind this is the people that are smart enough, people like me, other people in the industry, are telling you guys, hold up, because they could pull something tricky here, and it might feel like it has the same horsepower, but it isn't the same car. It's an EV with a gas engine as a battery charger. Just not good. That's why I'm skeptical. I'm pretty sure that's why this person's skeptical too. Because I'm pretty sure they know that Stellantis is the owner of the company.
Well, I sure hope so.
Nope, sorry. They also know Stellantis is all EV and they want nothing to do with gas engine. They've said that in many articles. They bought Ram, Jeep, and Dodge as a shell company to sell their Stellantis cars in the US. They didn't sell their cars in the US because Tesla has full stock and ownership in the US and control. So they started going under, and their investment quickly turned into a loss. That's why this isn't going to go. That's why it isn't going to work. You guys will find out why when I hit the EV topic here shortly. So here they were talking about them bringing Tim back. Just because he's at the helm, guys, doesn't mean he's going to have control. Shareholders of Stellantis are the ones with the control. They're the ones pulling the strings. We'll see what he can do. Yeah, I wanted to bring this one to you guys. Let's take a trip down memory lane quick, shall we? Back in the day, any of us who were worth our grit would street race. We would build our cars, get them ready, take them out Friday night or Saturday night, possibly both, and we would know where to go to find a race. We could then choose to bet on that race. Some people raced for pinks, in my mind, which was people that raced for pinks already had a pretty stout built car and they knew that they were going to beat you. So they would put their title up because they could get you to put your title up. And in the process, they could take a not so fast car, turn around and sell it and pay back the mods that they put on their car. I never raced for pinks for that same reason. What we would do is bet cash. So you could do 100, 200, 500, 1,000, 10,000. The race was all dependent on how fast the car was, determined how much you had to pay to get into that race. This sheriff getting busted for illegal street racing when he had zero tolerance on street racing, not only is it comical, but it tells you that the street racing culture is still there. And this guy is one of the old school guys doing it. He frowned on it because he was probably able to set himself up for success because he was able to arrest the fastest drivers, making his car the fastest. Anybody in the street racing game already knows that that's what was happening. He would catch these street racers, and when he knew their cars were faster, he was pulling them over, he was impounding their car and taking their car. Meanwhile, in his off time, he was street racing on the side. So here's one for you guys. Renault is the expensive line. They partnered with Nissan. And the catastrophic implosion of Nissan has cost Renault $11 billion. This is not good for them. We are going to see Nissan up for sale if it isn't already. And Nissan is on the verge of going out. They're in big financial trouble. And their partnership with this French company isn't going to save them because Renault's not going to keep eating the cost here, guys. Pro tip, why would Renault keep eating that cost? They're not going to. They're going to sell off their partnership or they're going to break the contract and get out of it. $11 billion is enough to blow both companies in the water and just destroy them. So Nissan is in a world of hurt. If you own a Nissan, you may want to consider what you're going to do for the future. Parts will be available for a little while, but guys, I wouldn't buy a new one right now. Knowing what I know about this company imploding the way it is, don't buy a Nissan. Stay far, far away. And we're back to where we were last week. All right. Guys, we are now going to transition into a separate topic. This is one I wanted to bring you guys separately because I did the homework and I did the breakdown for you guys. Yeah, Europeans don't understand Americans. Absolutely agree. 100%. They do not understand our car culture. They do not understand anything about us. You could give them any American car right now and they would not understand why we build our cars the way we do, why we have a fascination of going fast. They don't understand it at all. And they're never going to get it. All right, guys. So now that we've transitioned, guys, here we go. I'm going to get into this topic. Grab out your popcorn and let's get ready to rock. What I've done is I've done some homework on these cars. So we are going to compare apples to apples. I'm not going to compare apples to oranges, apples to apples. Premium gas engine vehicle to a premium EV vehicle. I'm going to use the same year. I'm going to use the same mileage. And I'm going to use the same luxury features. What this will do is give us a side-by-side comparison, gas versus EV. Why am I doing this? Because I'm sick of the EV topics. I'm sick of EV doing what they're doing and lying to you guys. I'm going to blow them right out of the water right now. I'm coming for you guys and I've had enough. First of all, let's start off on the very first page right here. We're looking at a range of 208 to 270 for the miles. This is going to be best case scenario, not running air conditioner, not running heat, not running lights. Let's look at the MPGe, which is what you can expect between charges. 89 miles to 101. Guys, your gas engine can go 3 times as far. This is ridiculous. Both that I'm going to compare are 2015s. This is an L. And this is Tesla, guys. Tesla. You know what? Hold on. I can't do this topic right unless I really go in on Tesla. So here we go. Did you guys know that Tesla operated for 10 years and didn't make a dime? Did you know that Tesla, their battery warranties are backed by the federal government? Did you guys know that a lot of their production was piggybacked off of someone else's technology? Did you know that Elon wasn't the original founder of Tesla? I say all of that to bring this home. This is why EVs are disgusting and horrible. This is why they're not worth the money. The $100,000 you're going to pay for this car, guys, I'd rather buy this car, spend less than $100,000, and I got a way better car. I got something that'll go 300-400 miles to a tank of fuel, get almost 29 miles to the gallon on the highway. I have engine options. This is its comparison. That Tesla model that I showed you guys, this is its comparison. The Audi A6 is comparable to the Model S. They're on the same platform, same space in the interior, and are supposed to have the same stats. This thing don't even have a third of the stats of that car. A third of the mileage. Way more in maintenance. Guys, this is what EV promises us. This is the promise that EV delivers. Bad mileage. If you overcharge it, it shortens the battery life. I'm going to get into that in just a little bit. You overcharge it, shortens the battery life. Shortening the battery life will cost you thousands of dollars to fix. The only way that owning this EV will be cheaper than owning this gas-powered A6 Audi is if you blow up the motor and the transmission in that Audi. And you properly charge the battery in that Tesla to where it doesn't go bad. But that's not going to be possible over time, and I'm going to show you why. Let's get into the next step here, guys. We're going to now compare the market values of these two vehicles. Okay? I compare the market value. Here we are on the Tesla. If you sold this outright, you'd be looking at about $14,000 at best private party. I did both of them at good value. Not excellent, not perfect, not horrible. Good value. Because that was 50% of the cars out there were at good value. So I did it off of the range of average good cars, the highest percentage. I'm going to cover something right up here in just a bit. But this is the value you can expect out of this car. Let's jump over to here. Here it's only $8,600 for this used car that's a gas engine. Why is that? Because there's a lot less hidden cost here. They're being upfront with you. Not only that, but they're trying to price these vehicles out, so they're making them cheaper. What they don't realize is that they're going to price people out once I show you what's next. How long do the batteries last? Let's get into this topic. I've been waiting for this one for a while, guys. So, yep, EV lovers, you guys are about to get a fistful. Here we go. So, battery expected longevity of these is all in your charging habits. Do you charge all the way from 0 to 100, or do you bounce the charge in between? You don't want to max it out. That does damage to the battery. You don't want to run it to empty. That does damage to the battery. You don't want to charge on a stage 3 charger or level 3 charger because it heats up the battery. It says hot conditions can actually do damage to the battery. A stage 3 charger puts out a ton of heat in that battery and does damage to it. Let's go ahead and look at this topic right here. So Elon tweets battery modules could last for 300 to 500K. Distant equivalent to 150 charging cycles. Guys, that math doesn't add up. It really doesn't add up. Let's look at that math there for a second. There is no way 1,500 charges will get you near this mileage range when you're only averaging about 100 miles per charge. How did I come up with that? Right here. Right here. This is its expected mileage. This might be the range. So let's say, let's go ahead. Guys, let's go ahead and take best case scenario. Let's say you get full range. You can't get full range because you can't fully drain the battery. You can't fully charge the battery because you damaged the battery. Are you guys starting to see what I'm talking about here? You're not going to get this kind of mileage out of this car because you can't use the full range. This is going to be closer to your range. That being said, this article already tells you you're not going to get anywhere near this mileage out of those modules. And there's the truth. As we keep scrolling down, we're going to get into some numbers here, guys. I want to cover these numbers before we get into the last piece that I was showing you guys on the recalls. I'm going to give you guys some tips on picking good cars, avoiding lemons. All right, so as we get into this, it's saying here, battery replacements in 2023 are between 5K and 20K.
Stop the cap.
This is a lie. This is done as a publicity stunt, and I'm about to show you why in the same article. Here we go, guys. They're saying the batteries are $13,500. Labor is almost another $2,300, bringing you to a total of $15K. But if we look at this fancy little chart down here, that I will now make bigger for you. You look here, there's a huge spread. This is the BMW battery. This is one of the cheaper ones. Let's go ahead and come down here to the Tesla. What did I tell you guys about battery replacement costs? $27,000. I wasn't too far off on that, was I?
Bruh. Well, I sure hope somebody picks up that phone, because I f***ing called it!
So here you go. This is what you're looking at as far as a battery cost replacement. This is the true number right here. Not that one right there. That's a lie.
Stop the cap.
These numbers are not true, guys. We just saw up above what the cost was going to be to replace that battery. This is how they're suckering people in. But what they're trying to do is sell you on the warranty. So I'm going to scroll through here. There is a warranty section that I wanted to show you guys. All right, so they're saying warranty right here on batteries is up to 150K. You guys need to look at this. And you guys gotta look close. When you look close at that, there's a bunch of stipulations that you gotta meet. It's got to be a certain model. And they tell you right here, it's got to be a certain model. And when you go to the different models, there's a different warranty. Why is that? It's because it's cheaper. These are built cheaper. So they're shortening the mileage on it because they're expecting them to have issues. And they don't want to pay for a battery. So how do they do it? They make sure that 90% of all cars that are going to fail will fail within that mileage. This is how they avoid putting batteries in under warranty. You will eat that cost. Now, if you're rich enough and you can afford to buy a new car all the time and you're going to trade it in all the time, then it doesn't matter because all you're going to do is hose the next guy in line. That's right, I said it. You guys buying EVs that have the disposable money to buy EVs, all you guys are doing is hosing the next guy in line because you're not going to own it that long. You're going to dump the car. Meanwhile, we eat that cost. And all you're doing is pushing technology that we can't keep up with. So you're not building cars for the average person, you're building cars for the elite. And in turn, all of us are going to have to deal with your junk. This is why me and the government have had not very good terms lately. It's because of garbage like this. Because they're pushing this garbage. We'll give the Trump administration some credit here. They're pushing back against this EV. They're pushing back against California, and they're pushing this EV mandate. It's already been put in that they can't mandate vehicles to be EV by 2035. That's a good thing. But here's the problem. Most of this push isn't by the Trump administration or anyone in that camp. It's by the elite politicians that get reelected all the time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm usually far more composed. I'm just a little bit absolutely livid.
That being said, this is what we're dealing with, guys, right here. And we're going to wind up eating it later on when this technology gets flooded into the industry. I've gone hard on Elon today. I've gone hard on the Tesla brand. I've gone hard on a lot of different things. Let me put some perspective into play here. Guys, 9 recalls. Nine recalls are ridiculous.
Oh, hell no!
You don't want this many recalls on a car. This is a lemon. Straight up lemon. Anything more than 5 recalls? 5. 5. If you can't count them on one hand, don't buy that car. Stay away. This one's almost reaching 2 handfuls. It only takes one more for it to get there. And I'm pretty sure there is one more by now. We'll look at it. We'll look at these 9 here in just a little bit. Let me show you what the comparison car is. Four recalls on the Audi A6, which in my mind is the better car. Not only because it's a gas engine, but you're dealing with the supercharged engine here, guys. The supercharged engine has a higher cost of operation because you have to fix the supercharger. But yet this car is still cheaper than a Tesla. This is what it is, guys. This is what we need to watch out for. This is a better car than this. We want to avoid these at all costs. 9 recalls? Are you out your damn mind? This is a lemon. Let's look at the recalls, shall we? Electrical system. Airbags. And this is front airbags. Interior turn signals. Electrical system. Guys. L. just keeps going. Guys, there's a video on YouTube showing you how to put a wire into your doors to open them when the latches fail. Why does that video exist? It exists because this is a real problem. Power steering failure when it's an electric steer? Guys, this car is a death trap. This car is a straight up death trap.
Oh, hell no!
You couldn't give me one of these piles of shit. And normally I try to keep my verbiage pretty clean on here, but this is a pile of shit. Here's the recalls on the Audi. It's only got 4. Guys, it's under that 5 that I said. Now, the biggest one is this wiring. This is a problem. This can cause fires. This can cause a lot of stuff to short out. This is a problem. Airbags. This is an occupant classification, meaning that it's probably in the rear passenger or side airbags. Not as big of a deal. If it's front airbags, much bigger deal. I'm not seeing that. Engine and coolant, there's 2 recalls. More than likely, both of these recalls are done at the same time. So something like this is only going to cost you 1 downtime, not 2. Because most of the time, these will be performed at the same time. Do you guys now see and understand what I was talking about with the EVs? Aim High asks, how many years old? These are 2015s. These are 10-year-old cars. 10-year-old cars, for the most part, are normal cars now. Most average people buy 10-year-old cars. They don't buy cars within the last 4 years because the cost of ownership of the car, all the repair, all the maintenance, most of it is going to be between that 5 to 10-year mark. That's where the cars are going to get filtered down to everyone else. The people that can buy them under 3 are usually living a pretty high lifestyle. When you're talking 60 to 100K for a new car, you're not touching that car for at least 5 years, at least. And remember, these were luxury brand cars. Aim High also asks, is there a limit where 9 recalls is acceptable?
Oh, hell no!
No, never. Never. That car should be recalled and it should be pulled back. All of them. That whole model year should be pulled back and those should be fixed. That's too far. That tells me a few things. Let me run through that list of what I think is going on. It's a sound effect you guys are about to hear quite a bit. Number 1, what's happening is the cars are being rushed into production. Number 2, they're putting cheap parts in it because they want to save money. They already know they're overpricing it, so they know they're going to make a profit. Those cars are glitchy and have a bunch of mistakes that they don't want to fix. They wait for it to go out of warranty so that the customer now eats the cost. Customer eats the cost and loses time with the car, so they can't drive it very far. So, because they can't drive it very far, they're not going to get near that warranty on the battery. These are all set up to set them up to not eat that battery cost. And there's the trick. Even a 30-year-old car should not be pushing that many recalls. Those kind of recalls are not acceptable by any means. By any stretch of the means, we should never be dealing with cars that have near double-digit recalls. These are dangerous vehicles on the road, plain and simple. And I haven't even covered the fire hazard that goes along with EVs. If I was to cover that, that's going to be a whole nother topic. Because the fire hazard portion So that fire hazard would result in a whole nother video for me to break that down. And I could break down where it happens, how it happens, and what you can expect. Because I've done all the homework on it. I used to work in the scrap metal industry. I know exactly where the failure points are and how this all plays out. So that might be something I'll do for you guys in the future. But for today, we're going to end it with the value. The value is basic, plain and simple math, guys. We can't, in any stretch of the imagination, justify paying this kind of money for a car that we're going to have to stick $22,000 to $27,000 in to put a battery in on top of this price, when we could buy this car and at worst, we put a few $1,000s into it for a motor or transmission. And guys, that's the real story. That's the real deal. This is why EVs are looked at as a failure. But they keep getting pushed, keep getting preferential treatment in the government and by our politicians.
Oh, hell no.
The only way we're going to fight back against this, guys, we got to vote all of them out. All the ones that are backing this kind of garbage, they got to go. They got to get voted out. They cannot stay. Because if they're willing to push bad technology, gets people hurt and killed and causes other problems, we can't keep them in office. These people are not elites. They do not know better than us. We need to wake up, plain and simple. This is the time now that we have an administration in that is actually fighting for us. It's time for us to wake up and say, if you guys support this stuff, then you guys got to go. We can't keep you in here. It's getting to the point that the elites are going to push us to want to put somebody in place that's going to build cars for the average people. Do you know the last time that happened? I believe it was World War II by chance. Guess what happened then? Let's not fall for the mistakes of our past. Let's not become the countries that we had to fight against because we weren't smart enough to stop it in the first place. So, guys, I've went on and on about this topic. I drilled this sucker really hard. We had a pretty good stream. Wish we would have gotten some more chats in. And hoping that it'll pick up in the future. So, yeah, I got to look at why my views are tanking and what's going on, why I'm not able to hold good here. This is just end talk for me and my producer a little bit. So I'm just throwing some side stuff out here for you guys before I go ahead and end the stream. But it's been a really good stream, guys. We did a lot. We found out some information. We found out some bad stuff that I have to tell the customer. With a leaking valve guide, we do have to replace the head. And to be honest with you, the car's not worth it. This car behind me is... So if you guys are catching this on replay, let us know if you guys would rather have a Saturday live, if it would be better for you guys and more people would tune in. Maybe Sundays are a little bit busy and people are trying to wrap up things before they go to work. So I might do that. I might consider switching to a Saturday live next week just to kind of see if we can get some better results. Me and my producer are going to talk about this off camera and kind of figure out if maybe we should restructure what we're doing. And maybe it's the better way to go here. Because when I have big projects like this, I can't hold this up for my customer for 4 weeks. I can't keep doing that. And it might be better if I just plan on doing an earlier Saturday stream where I could go longer in the day and give you guys more content to where I can possibly finish these projects. So we're going to have that talk. We're going to figure out more than likely, guys, next week we will probably try a Saturday stream just to see if we get a better turnout here. But yeah, so far this stream has not done well. I need to figure out if I am shadow banned. Off of the last 3 weeks, guys, I think there's a good chance that there's a shadow ban situation going on. But let's go ahead and end it for today, guys. We've done quite a bit. I do need to get with my customer, do some homework, and figure out what direction they want to go before I proceed. Once we have that information, I'll get back with you guys next week. We'll figure all this out and we'll move forward. But I want to thank you guys. Today has been a great stream. We've done a lot. We got a lot going on this car. We almost got most of this done. To be honest with you, there really isn't a lot left. We could very easily put the plugs in it, put the valve cover on it, put the belt on it, put the cover on it, do an oil change, and this car would be done. I could finish this car next week if they don't want to pull the head. The only thing that would hold us up is the headlights. Guys, these headlights are toast, and we're going to do a separate video on the headlights. I'm also going to do a separate video on key fobs, how to replace the battery in key fobs, because you'll notice over time that the range to opening your car as you have to get closer and closer, that battery goes bad. So we've got quite a few key fobs that we're going to go ahead, take apart, and put batteries in. In fact, I actually have 3 of them. So we're going to pop all 3 apart. We're going to put new batteries in it, and you guys are going to see how to do that right here. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you get notified when I go live. See you guys on the next one.